Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to my home. Welcome to the office. Welcome to the morning grind. I think this is going to be a little bit of a non-standard morning grind here because we're going to be following off of the conversation we had last night on the Table Talk channel where we decided, Doug asked if he could interview me when it came down to the cultists and things like that. He said, this was a few weeks ago, he said, we should do a Table Talk where I interview you. And so we did that last night, and I thought that was so much fun. I thought it was a great time. We had a great conversation. I was over on the Table Talk channel. Doug did a great job hosting the interview and, and conducting the show. And so that was great. So we had some topics to follow up on. We got lots of people here. So Zero the Blade is here. Good morning, Zero. And PH, good morning. Good morning. James Bacon, Bacon Gaming is here. Sable Phoenix, lots of people. BGD, good morning. Good morning. Druden Fuzz, Mike. There we go. Mike M, there we go. Good morning. Nathaniel's here. Well, lots of people. Let's see. So... Oh, yesterday was your birthday, Mike? Yesterday was your birthday. That stream last night was a wonderful birthday gift. Oh, well, that's fantastic. let's see. All right. So I actually thought, didn't Sable just say something about a member stream? I was actually thinking, is anybody here who is a channel member who would like to, like, I was thinking about putting that out, putting the link out to the channel members to come on to have the discussion, because we could do this through the chat, but we could also have people come on the stream. I don't have a problem with having people come on the stream. So I think I should actually do that. So let me go ahead and actually, let me do that. So let me go ahead. I'm going to get the invite link, and then I'm going to go over here to the community tab on YouTube, and I'm going to post the StreamYard link to the channel members. So let me do that right now. Create post. This is going just to the channel members. Good morning. If you would like to join me on the morning grind this morning to talk about creativity and getting things done, here's the link to join StreamYard. Okay, well, I'll be live for probably a little bit more than an hour. I've got to go make stuff happen today too. A little bit more than an hour. Until about 11 a.m. Central. All right, so if you want that link, I just posted that link. Oh, you'd have to wait till 11. Well, I forget which time zone that is. Okay. All right. Well, that's out. I was noticing, by the way, so I was just on Kickstarter. I posted the link, I'll show you. Go to the YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel, and then under community, and then I just posted a members only post. So I hope that the channel members get notified when I hit the channel only post like that. I'm not sure how that works from a channel member side, but go over to the Geekverse channel, go to community, and then go to that first post. Oh, good morning, Wild Barley. Good morning. Oh, 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes. So that's where it is. Let's see. While we're here, okay, so I am going to be editing video today. I shot what should become the Kickstarter video for the Cultists RPG yesterday. And it's going to become both I'm going to put slightly different versions out on YouTube as the YouTube trailer, and then also use it as the Kickstarter video. I shot that yesterday, so I've got to be editing this. I see you, Sable, but it says your mic and cam. I can't. It says you will need to connect your mic and cam before I can add you to the stream. So we just had Sable pop on, but it won't let me add you quite yet. So anyway, I'm going to be editing that video today. Hopefully get that done, because I was like, what's the biggest thing I've got to do in order to get through the path, the most critical path. So I've got a few videos that I scripted. I've got the trailer, which will be on the page, on the Kickstarter page, and also will be posted to YouTube. I shot also a video on just the existence of a Cthulhu comedy RPG and how that relates to the Cultist show. So I shot that yesterday, and I did one edit pass on it, to just rough edit pass. And then I'm also, hopefully today, I'm going to shoot a video on narrative roles. It has been too long since I have done just standard YouTube videos. So, but we really thought that the role of the idea of narrative roles that was in the in the low stakes RPG was interesting, and we pushed that forward as a way to potentially handle character change. So I've got the script here for a video on narrative roles, and then also using narrative roles through change. And then also a video just about the dice giveaway, which is right here, the $500 dice giveaway. And as Sable was talking about last time, I'm going to get the email list going again. I do have people to email when I am ready to do the Elder Dice Kickstarter, but I think we need like a weekly newsletter, like maybe go out on Tuesdays or something like that. So maybe next week start that based on the people who have signed up. I think that's going to be important. And then also I have got to build this out build out the Cultist RPG in our virtual tabletop interface, and I have scripted a how to play the RPG in 5 minutes. And yeah, I noticed that where Shadow Dark won all of those awards at Gen Con, including like the best product of the year. And I've noticed that my video on how to play Shadow Dark in 5 minutes is getting quite a bit of traction now. So there we go. Yeah, the newsletter in general, we used to do newsletters a lot, like a monthly newsletter, but I'm actually we'll bring you on here in just a moment, Sable. Okay, yep. Looks like you are ready now. Okay. Yeah, we used to do a newsletter, like an email newsletter a lot, like years ago, like a monthly newsletter, and I'm against that now. I stopped being for that because the newsletter was always late. Something would happen, and then sometime that month, all right, I got to go through and I got to make this newsletter with a whole bunch of different bullet points about basically stuff that happened. But it doesn't need to be that way. It needs to be more forward looking about, hey, this stuff is coming. And so rather than, hey, once a month you get like basically a wrap up email, that doesn't work. They need to be more frequent, less material. Like this is happening right now, not, hey, here's a big wall of text about stuff that has happened over the past month. So because who has time to read this gigantic long email anyway? You need to get an email when something is about to happen, like a live stream happening or a campaign going live or something like that. So that's how I'm going to use that going forward. Right. Yeah. So the email list is essential to be built. All right. So let's bring Sable on. Sable wants to talk. Hey, Sable.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know what the
Good
deal
morning,
is with StreamYard. It logged me in muted, and it's missing my little icon and stuff too. Anyway.
Oh, we are missing your icon. Oh, well, you're here. We can hear you.
Yeah, as long as you can hear me, that's good. Good to talk with you again. It's been a bit.
Yes, it has been.
But last night's stream was awesome. Doug's a natural at interviewing, and it was very interesting to talk about kind of the sequence of how everything that you've done fits together. So I thought it was a great stream.
Thank you. Yeah, there has been method to my madness and what I was trying to do, but I haven't had all the components quite right yet. So that's why I was like, all right, let's do a relaunch and let's get back. Let's not. I'm not giving up. Let's not give up. Let's just relaunch. Go back to the beginning, because I have other there is part of me that's like, okay, let's move forward too. There are things that I want to do moving forward too. But I was like, yeah, but I need to make sure that I get this right. And so that was the idea with this.
Yeah, every once in a while you just have to pause and kind of get your feet back under you to springboard towards what you want to accomplish. I'm sure that nobody begrudges the time, not necessarily time off, but the pause, I guess, to refocus. Especially since you have like 4 or 5 different things, it seems like, going on at one time. So you're one of the busiest YouTubers that I know.
Well, yeah, and arguably it's too much. And branding is an important kind of thing. Which is why we did the rebranding. And so, arguably some of the stuff maybe we shouldn't do. Like, I'm not sure what, like is table talk something that we should be doing? I mean, I have fun with it. I think it's very valuable. But I was looking at all these different things like, okay, table talk, dinner and a board game, the morning grind, other YouTube videos, are they all worth doing? I mean, you do have to evaluate sometime, and at least ask that question.
Yeah, true. The whole kill your darlings thing sometimes.
Yeah, I've got to talk to Megan today. I'm going to talk to Megan and the owner of the winery, because like one of the issues is systematizing all of this, because we need a way to systematize creating the. I mean, the idea for like dinner and a board game was to have a place where all of our games could be played.
Right.
Well, that's
an interesting question too about. Well, yeah, not being a YouTuber, but that's one of those things where if you have too much stuff on one channel, apparently that's actually the dilution is
right.
The way it works.
And I think that was one of my problems. I mean, I think that was a major problem, because Mike asked that. Mike asked, "Is having different channels to loot things for you? Would you be better off putting all of that in one bucket?" And I think the answer is absolutely. It was no. So I went through. That's why that Brianna and I worked with Brianna several months ago to rebrand channels to relaunch, because originally I did have them all on one. They were all here, and that ended up being. I think that was actually a critical mistake. That I should have had the multiple channels that were more tightly branded, because people need to know what to expect when they come to one show or like one channel, like what's going to be there, what's going to be on that channel. That's why this one has become just the tabletop game focused, the tabletop gaming focused right here. Because if we do storytelling and table talk, because table talk used to be hosted over here, that actually drives people away. Now there's a core group of people, of course, who want all of those different things, but most people, if they sign up if they want to know about table talk, then they may not be interested in Morning Grind or Dinner and a Board Game or the Cultists, and then seeing all of that actually drives them away.
Right.
Hey, Robert. Let's bring Zero on. Hey, Zero.
Hey. Hey. Sorry, my voice sounds a little bad. Still recovering from Gen Con.
Yeah.
I heard everybody got sick at Gen Con.
Yeah, there was a COVID strand going around here and there.
That's what I heard. How was Gen Con? I mean, other than getting sick, I guess.
Let's just say this: the fire marshal would have been pissed.
Okay.
We were overcrowded.
Really?
So
yeah.
I saw
all
pictures.
Days were sold out, and we had like barely double digits of the remaining solo days.
Huh. Wow. This is the first year that I was actually thinking, I need to kind of find some kind of method to get back there. Because I don't know that setting up a giant booth or something like that is the way to go. But they do have the authors tables. I was thinking if I have another book or two, maybe I could do an authors table or something like that.
Yeah, I mean they do have like different sections for different amounts.
So I don't know, but yeah, I was kind of for the first time since I haven't been there in a few years. I was feeling like, oh yeah, that's where things are going on. I figure maybe I need to find a way to get back to Gen Con and Origins. And I've also got to talk to. Did you go see Creature Curation? Did you see Brian at Creature Curation? Don't remember.
No, I did not because I was there as an exhibitor for Slugfest. So
that's right. You were helping.
So I had to be careful with how much I did, and also on Friday I spent time with Mark Tassin.
Oh, cool.
Oh, how was he doing?
He's doing well. It's just that he hasn't been to Gen Con in a while, so this one being one he returned to just to demo Cool Name was something else. I met up with him and his friends for the demo. I got notes if you need them.
You got to play Cool Name?
Yeah.
What did you think?
Like I said, I got notes about it.
What's your overall impressions though? Like good, bad, fast, slow, fun. I'm sure it's fun. But.
Yeah, it's fun because it's all based on your imagination limits. So you can push the boundaries to like almost beyond what you would expect with any other tabletop game.
So a lot less rules focused, a lot more kind of like a narrativist almost type of an idea.
Yeah, where like basically we had a wizard manage to fireball a wall through the wall.
Okay. That sounds cool.
Well, yeah, I wish. Yeah, I want to try that out. I want to try that out. And that I feel like that's something that should be happening on like Dinner and a Board Game, is trying out different people's the new systems and things like that. I think that might be a way forward there too, because we play other people's games on Dinner and a Board Game, but I think we ought to actually play different YouTubers, because different YouTubers games, people who are actually part of that community. Of course, we've got like Hero Quest set up and other things set up, but it might be a bigger draw if we had other people come on and play their games. I would love to do that. So I want to reach out to Mark.
Yeah, in fact, he gave me a business card if you need it.
Has anybody been out? I was seeing they were talking about San Diego Comic-Con. Has anybody been out there? Now Drake, our author friend, was out at San Diego Comic-Con and then did Gen Con. But I've never been out to the Comic-Con.
Yeah, SDCC has just become in a lot of ways, it's a clearinghouse for upcoming Hollywood projects anymore.
It's very mainstream.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that happens at SDCC that has nothing to do with comics or even like necessarily geek culture, so to speak.
I mean, you do get a project here and there, but that's about it.
Yeah. Not at SDCC. Yeah, it's become a commercial, essentially.
It's highly commercial, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we have another. Oh, look, we have someone with a camera. Here's James. Here, I'm going to bring you on, James, and I'm going to grab something to drink, something else to drink here. Hey, James.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah.
James.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
Good. How about you?
Oh, good.
Have a proper doctor conversation.
What have you got? What are you thinking this morning, James?
I am now on the spot, and I have no idea what to contribute. I just really kind of been listening to the conversation about, the whole topic in general, being creative and how to get into it and what to do moving forward and that whole thing. I don't know if I have much to contribute just out of the gate like that. I guess I should have thought about that before I was brought on.
Well, let's see.
Well, I have a few ideas I remember hearing about from other streamers as well. If you don't mind me shooting off some ideas.
Sure. PH says, "Is today the day we start the riot?" Are we starting the first form of publisher and kick off collaborative projects? Just kidding. Okay. But
I wonder if it could be. I wonder, like, and I am just spitballing. I have no idea what it would take to set up some kind of an infrastructure like this. But I'm wondering if it couldn't be something like, maybe even it would have to have its own Discord, but it would be something where you could actually, and maybe you'd have to be vetted to do so or something, but you could actually submit to have a channel in the Discord for, hey, this is a project I'm actually working on. Here it is, and who wants to hop in and help me collaborate on accomplishing whatever this vision is, I need people to do X, Y, Z type of a thing.
Is setting up a Discord free?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might make more sense then instead of
is not that difficult, and you can actually set parameters on who can join and how.
Well, it might be easier then, instead of making a request in Discord, to make like Heath or an administrator have to sort of field all that stuff and create that stuff.
Right.
Maybe people can just create their own Discords and then share them in the self shout out channel in the Geekverse. There's also a matter of like branding. Like, I don't know if this is a direction you want to go in, Heath, and I may have brought this up at some point before. And if I have and you don't like it, whatever, tell me shut up. But you can sort of lend the name Geekverse to other projects or other channels to sort of network that way as a kind of a loose association. And as long as you maintain like a copyright or a trademark, you can pull it whenever you need to. So if you accidentally get involved with someone or someone so you don't want to be associated with anymore, you just yank the name back and they're all of a sudden not associated anymore. But there are ways, low impact,
that is a good idea,
ways to do this. If it's something you want to explore, you know what I mean? Like if it's not, if you just want to do your thing, I get it.
Here we also have Robert. Let me bring Robert on too.
Yay! I was hoping Robert would be.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Robert.
It's been a while since you've been on.
If you're just coming in, I put out the link to the channel members, so you're all seeing channel members here. Hey, Robert, how are you doing?
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
I can hear you. It's a little distant, but I can hear you.
I am on Bluetooth. Maybe my microphone audio. I need to configure that. No, it's maybe I should use the iPhone microphone. Let's try that.
You might be on the wrong microphone, but we can hear you.
Okay. That the iPhone's gonna create an echo.
Oh, now you're underwater, man.
Yeah, now you sound underwater. Yeah, that one.
Oh dear. Wait, is that better?
Yeah, that is better.
That is better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. It's working the way it should then. I actually am very interested in this topic, just having worked with lots of YouTubers who basically do cross promotions. And the way the mutual benefit, generally speaking, is that everyone's got their own channels. And then you kind of bring each other on when you're promoting projects. You can talk about projects, but sometimes you're just shooting the breeze and talking about topics. It could be something going on in gaming or movies or something like that. Entertainment, something that the Geekverse is interested in, generally speaking. And then when, people are like launching projects or whatever, you can kind of like do a talk show where, it's mostly talking, but then, maybe 25% advertising. It's like, all right, here's the project. And usually that works well for crowdfunding and venues like that. In terms of like an imprint or anything like that, I think James is correct that like you need to retain control over what your brand is, but everyone has their own brand. So I'm not certain that the brand is what necessarily people would benefit the most from. It would probably be some type of, kind of promotional network that,
It's
especially
almost like
creatives.
it's almost like an art collective almost is what we're talking about here. It sounds like, and it'd be something like maybe you could just like say, hey, rather than it being a brand per se, just it could be like associate of the Geekverse or something like that. And the Geekverse would just be understood as a, like Robert was talking about, kind of this collaborative supersphere, if you will.
Yeah, there is something
like a badge,
like a banner, a banner badge or something like that. But there is something to be said for. I mean, this is why you realize, oh, actually having a publisher is a good thing, because there is something to be said for sharing infrastructure.
Right.
There's all kinds of things that you've got to do that you set up. And that's why I said, okay, I'm going to set this stuff up one more time for Ravenkeep. And I want to be sure that it's set up so that I never really have to do that again. because like setting up, if you're going to do physical products, then you've got to have warehouses and fulfillment centers and a place to buy stuff like on a Shopify store, and make sure that's integrated with your warehouses. Are there multiple warehouses that, like around the world, potentially manufacturers? I mean, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on that most people legitimately do not want to have to set up.
Right. Yes. No. And that might be one of the reasons that if something like this is floated, that people are immediately like, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea. I want to join." It's like, oh, somebody else can take care of the back end, right?
Yeah. I think we. Yeah. I do. That's over the next month when we start promoting the Cultists again. That is one of the goals here. I want to get this out so the subscribers here and on the email list.
One thing I would just say is you don't want to probably get into the business of being like a fulfillment clearinghouse for lots of creators. I highly recommend against that, and more so lean on the idea that mostly because you've done it before, Heath. Now, Matt, multiply that by 2 or 3 or whatever. Like there is a lot of upkeep involved with something like that can rapidly get away from one person.
I agree. Scope creep is very real in that sort of situation.
And you don't have to do everything. I think is the point. And what the benefit to Heath should be that we're building our own kind of platforms that he can go as a guest on to kind of cross promotional purpose there. And that there should be that element of try to build what you can for yourself as well, because then you'll have a channel as well that people will be attracted to as well. Bacon Gaming, what are you up to in subscribers right now?
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. That's a work habit. I think I'm at 120. I can check real quick if you give me a second.
120 subscribers in a month.
Yeah.
That's
pretty good.
That's pretty good.
And your videos are getting watched too. So
yeah, they are actually. Yeah, I'm at 120.
Nice.
And so I think if you're depending on YouTube as an example, then it's like, okay, everyone's going to be on YouTube, but you can obviously cross stream into Twitter. If you pay for the StreamYard premium, you can cross stream to Rumble as well. It doesn't seem the free option works that way. Like to cross stream, you have to have the premium. Actually, I think to go to Twitter, you have to have the premium as well. Otherwise, it only works for like one channel at a time.
Yeah, I noticed that I don't stream on Twitter anymore. I hadn't really been on Twitter in a long time, but you do have to have their premium service now to stream. But you can, I mean, if it's, I was working with Rumble too to see if I could get up on Rumble. But see, Mike says,
don't let me interrupt.
Oh, well, Mike says, what are the ways to guide people here? One of the ways to play to the algorithm and produce videos on specific topics that appeal to the wider YouTube community.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
The way to do that in our niche, though, is to talk about nothing but Dungeons and Dragons. And I think I maybe brought up Dungeons and Dragons once in one video, and it's like really buried down in the timeline. But I've been digging my heels in on getting a Twitter because I just don't like the idea of having one. But I think eventually I'm going to need to do that, because being able to just not even stream, just be able to like post the links to the videos out on Twitter and hashtag it and get an instant audience would probably be a really great cross promotion.
Yeah.
Well, considering that companies basically use Twitter for direct contacting now, it would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Well, YouTube basically doesn't really use their support system much anymore, but they will use Twitter.
Oh.
And that kind of ties into something that I was just going to say before you even brought up the chat message there, Heath, is YouTube's actually, for as big as YouTube is, it's also highly insular, and it's not something you can rely on as a promotional tool. Not really. Like I mentioned with Kelsey and Ben Milton and all of them, like the reason they're successful is because they spent years building up their email lists and
that's true.
their
Yeah,
external
that's-
marketing. And
yeah, it's you can't
that-
principally depend on
Exactly.
YouTube, especially if you're just starting out. But what I would say is that YouTube channels tend to grow with something that triggers the algorithm. So what is that?
Right.
If you're in the live streaming business, it has to be funny, it has to be entertaining, it has to be something that the audience is participating in, and there's a reason to there's a show. So that's an aspect of it. And then when you're just doing recorded videos that are for the algorithm principally, you can get subscribers that way. Shorts work the same way, but the shorts and the recorded videos audience doesn't automatically translate to I have a live audience who I can promote to. So the number in the chat, like how many people are watching a show, will give you an idea of what kind of promotional power you have in terms of let's bring a creator on. Sometimes a creator will bring his audience with them when they come on as a guest, so that's an advantage of having a larger creator on, or somebody who has a built-in audience where they're talking about something important. Something that comes to mind was when you had, that's what caught my attention, was when you had Ryan Dancing on talking about the OGL, a very controversial topic, and people had a reason to tune into the channel thereafter and probably to subscribe in general. And maybe you retain some of that audience moving forward. But a lot of people will just you get a big video, and then suddenly you get a lot of people on that. They'll even subscribe, but then they won't tune into anything else after that. And that's the downside of YouTube, unfortunately. And you're talking about millions of people who are trying to navigate that terrain, who haven't cracked the nut yet. But it is possible, but it's not something you can principally rely on. Sable's right. Building the email list is the important stopgap for retaining audience in terms of being able to sell to them.
Yeah. Yes, because if you see, one trap I was trying to not get into is if you can build an audience on a particular type of content like on YouTube, but then the question is, are they going to turn around and be interested in whatever it is that you're doing? Like we could talk, like James was just saying, we could talk about nothing but Dungeons and Dragons here on this channel. Like I could do all right, all we're doing is Dungeons and Dragons all the time. And then like on Table Talk, we could say, hey, all we're doing is Star Wars. Because that's what people do. You talk about Dungeons and Dragons, you talk about Star Wars.
Yeah.
But then you can see people get trapped like that when that's all they can do. And that does all kinds of things with things spiral out of control. That's all.
Yeah. Well, if you attach yourself to one thing and that one thing starts to go belly up as a consumer product, or just, in the eyes of the general population, you're tied to it. You're going down with the ship.
Well, or if you just get known that you build this audience who loves to hear you talk about how much you hate Star Wars, then that's all they tune into, like what Robert is talking about. That like if you talk about, now I want to talk about how much I love this thing over here. Well, that video doesn't do anything because your audience always wants to I love to hear this guy. I love to hate this thing and hear this guy talk about how much he hates Star Wars. The same thing with D&D. I'm sure there are people you're like, all right, every day we'll talk about something new that we hate about Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. But how does that, it might be successful on just a YouTube thing, but that doesn't help you build your own thing unless your own thing is just a comment and critique channel. Okay.
Yeah. And Mike actually brought up a good point. Mike M at 1113. I don't know. Seth Skorkowski talks a lot about Traveler, Call of Cthulhu, and other non-D&D games. He does, but Seth Skorkowski has a very high production value. He does skits, he creates characters, he puts them in situations, there are costumes involved. He's got a very entertaining presentation style. I am literally sitting on my couch talking to a camera, and there's going to be people out there who just hate my voice, or they don't like my cadence, or so, there are ways to do it for sure. And YouTube is it's not a sit on your laurel. What I'm doing, not the best way to do YouTube. But I'm just starting out. Like Heath, you've got introductions. You've got you can cut to I'm you use OBS. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you do to increase your production value, and I think that's very beneficial to your channel. I'll eventually get into that sort of stuff. You don't have to rely on Dungeons and Dragons. However, if you do, like no shot you're gonna have your first 1,000 viewers within like a month or 3 months or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's what the YouTube viewing role-playing game participating population is looking for at the moment. Not there's anything wrong with that. I just have nothing to say about it.
Well, then
You
there's niches
have to turn this
too,
around and focus on me the whole time, but I know me.
But there are niches that I think that appeal to what we'll just call it the Geekverse, for want of a better term. And so, talking about games, talking about different kinds of games, that I think that is of interest. Talking about industry issues, whether it's like licensing or something that's going on, or there's a new edition coming out. Covering it kind of not as the only thing that you cover, but as there's a variety of topics that I think that Heath, that you're very command of a lot of knowledge about in terms of like things that you talk about, and you're able to jump around from different kinds of games to talking about what's going on in the industry to talking about what's going on with movies, or what let's review, when you do table talk, let's review this movie, or let's review this book. So I think your kind of menu of things to talk about is probably not a problem. Having a variety is not a problem. I think that it makes for very engaging discussions. But in terms of like, if the question is how do you trigger the algorithm and make it work towards promoting independent creative projects, that is a very tough nut to crack.
No, it's not.
Well, for professionals, it's probably not. But for people who are doing it on their own and breaking into the industry, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Well, that's
who's done it for 30 years, probably got
what you need to do is actually work with other people around your subscriber count and your interests, and eventually the numbers are going to start crossing over to where this is one of the things that has been brought up, where it's like when you're small, you want to work with others who are small and build up that way.
You find people who are all at the same level, and you try to, then ideally you all grow together.
Yeah. And then when you branch off, you still keep your core group, but you still bring others with you that can jump around.
It's one thing to keep in mind, though, is not to get tunnel vision on just YouTube here either. Like the whole, at least the kind of picture I had, it's up to Heath as the instigator here and kind of the organizer, I guess you could say. But the kind of broader vision that I was thinking of with the Geekverse is less a network of YouTube channels, let's say, and more of just a network of some kind that is of way to just facilitate communication, because the stuff that we're actually accomplishing, right, is like Heath has 4 or 5 different projects going. Those are all off of YouTube, and YouTube is just there to discuss them and help promote them. Is what I'm saying making sense at all?
Yeah. I think you're looking at creative collaboration.
Oh, too many people talking at once.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying. So you're thinking like along the lines of like creative collaboration in addition to just promoting what everyone's doing, because everyone's going to have their own projects, but there may be interest in bringing on writers or editors or something like that.
Yes, exactly. So it's like not to try and jump the gun or anything. I won't get into any details, but Bacon and I are collaborating on something. It's just in the planning stages.
We are? I'm kidding.
Yeah, guess what, Bacon? You've been voluntold. But his own channel started. He's got another person he's working on his own stuff with as well, and then Bacon's collaborated with Brianna and Doug and Heath and all of them is in editing and that kind of stuff. Like there's this cross-pollination going on there of people actually helping each other with the projects they're working on. And to me, I think that's the more important and powerful thing that the Geekverse could be. It's like, hey, I'm an artist and an author, and yada, yada, yada. And these are the projects I'm working on. And then somebody else comes along and is like, oh, hey, I need an author to help me out with this thing. Or I have this part of my project that could use an artist that you'd be a real good fit for. And it doesn't have to just be creative. I mean, the people who are kind of behind the scenes, like, oh, I'm a publisher. And we have a set of people who know how to publish and handle all the nitty gritty stuff. And we know we can go to them. And that's like, we get this web of cross connections, because networking is the power behind getting anything done, whether it's business or sales or whatever else, in addition to creative stuff.
Heath, what were, if I can non sequitur, well, I guess it's maybe not a non sequitur, but if I can segue, I guess, into a different topic. I agree with what you're saying, Sable. And I think that, once you get in there and start doing, so much more comes to the forefront with regard to what needs to be done. But with regard to the Geekverse, Heath, what were your ideas? Did you have any plans? Is this something that we're just kind of talking past you on and taking it and running with it? And you're like, well,
right.
Crap.
Yeah, that was what my super chat was about last night too. Is like, hey, what's the actual?
Yeah. Well, my original vision for what I was trying to do was to eventually not have to do all of the physical side of this. Like the idea of oh, hey, Doc Flamingo, the development of IP, because I mean, yes, I can do it. It's slow. Like Andrew was just talking about the action figures, which are also expensive and things like that. So, but you can do all of the physical side yourself. I have done it myself. I can do it myself. But ideally, I would rather just have the stories and then have someone else do all of the physical products, and not try to do all of that myself. Have someone else who even would publish the books or bring out the action figures. I'll bring out the next line of stories. Here's what we need, and then we market all of this together. So, right. But I felt like, one, I needed to show that people would buy something based on some type of project. So that's why like this initial cultist thing is important. Well, what's the process that you bring out some type of show or some type of story, and then is that something that people will buy products with? So and then if so, then they repeat that for the next cultist or the Rabavania and Theophany and try to get that going. And because then I think you could go to somebody and say, like an existing publisher, and say, hey, people do like this RPG line, will you take it over? But I feel like you've got to show that you've got to have a proof of concept before you can go and have those discussions. And right now I don't have that. That's why the relaunch.
Yeah,
you need that built-in audience that they're going to want to see that it's successful, probably via crowdfunding or something like that. Although that could be a barrier for publishers that are like no to crowdfunding, and they're competing with it. So I think it does pose a dilemma, because I think if you were going to a publisher, and you've done this before, Heath, haven't you? Don't they want like to own it, or like how does that work usually?
Well, I have not really gone and talked to other publishers about that. I have never had that dialogue. I've always been the publisher.
Oh, I see. Okay, so when and you were talking about Infinite Black last night, and that was a partnership?
Right, that was a partnership. Yeah, I was the co-owner of that.
I see. But was he able? So does was it David?
David, yeah.
So but he's still doing it, and so in fact it was a way to kind of launch a business. It just wasn't the business you wanted to launch. Was kind of the way I took it there. But that I would think about like what made that work, because the numbers were, I think, enough to start a business with, because he's still doing it. So then the question is like, what made that work? What was unique about that? And then like, because if you're thinking about, I want to take my world, or I want to take my properties, my IPs, and then like, would you be selling them to a publisher? Because they're going to want to develop it themselves, I would think, if they have in-house crew or something like that. or they might bring you on as a consultant to kind of oversee it, a la Ed Greenwood, Forgotten Realms, or something like that. But most of them are going to have their own worlds and their own things that they're already working on. So what is the advantage to a publisher taking up somebody else's IP?
The advantage would be if the IP were large enough that has an existing fan base that buys products. I mean, that's like asking, like, why does somebody who is making T-shirts bother to go and license Star Wars to put Star Wars characters on their T-shirts? Why not just put their own characters on T-shirts? Well, it's because people already buy Star Wars characters with Star Wars, T-shirts with Star Wars characters.
Right. So then it's the chicken and the eggs, where in order to even get to the door of a publisher, one might need to already have a successful brand of something. Whether it's a game or a world or etc.
Right, exactly, and that's what I was saying. That I have to do that first, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to your experience with making The Cultist too, right? I mean, it's like you wanted to learn about writing and producing a film, and Brianna wanted to learn about writing and directing, and your whoever, I forget his name, who you're talking about, wanted to learn about directing and cinematography and yada yada, and you all just kind of came together as, okay, here's this project, and these are all these people who want to accomplish a similar project. So,
right, yeah, and that worked. Yeah,
like make the thing, and then focus on promoting afterwards, type of a thing, right?
Yeah. Well, ideally, we would have thought about promotion in advance. I mean, so that's one of the reasons. Yeah. So that's connecting all of these things has been kind of cobbling it together. So if I go forward again, all of that has to be thought about and planned in advance and together.
So it sounds like you're if I'm getting this correct, that you're kind of envisioning the Geekverse as something that has trod those paths and now has those production pipelines, if you want to call them that, in place. It's like, okay, there's this project you're putting together. Well, we already have this avenue of marketing. We already have this avenue of publishing. All of these things have already been set up and are ready to be used once the project is available or complete or what have you, right?
I think that could be yes. I think that could be yes, if I understand where you're going with that. The one idea, like when we still were working down here on video production and things like that, because we had thought about, which today I no longer would do. I don't think that's necessary. This is necessary, but we had talked about putting together like a studio soundstage, because we had people who were interested in this, and the skill sets and things like that. But in order to keep everybody busy, you've got to be putting something like that into production all the time. I mean, you've got to have people shooting stuff all the time. So that's a much bigger thing. But the idea there would be like, okay, if you had a group of people who you had the place to work and you had the sound stage and you had the people who could, record and shoot, that has got to market some products. I mean, this would be a big thing. But what I was thinking is that, okay, let's try a series of stories or a world, and you got to start with like 5 to 10 of these, because you've got to have these people working, and you say, hey, what does it mean to start a world or a series of stories? It might be 12 videos. I don't know, 12 story videos or something like that, as an example. And then all those stories have to market some type of associated product. And then maybe you go to a crowdfunding campaign or something like that. And if you do 5, 7, 10 of these, you're going to find out which ones people like and which ones don't. Mm-hmm. And then for round 2, you drop the ones that didn't cross some kind of threshold. You do basically a second season of those that worked with a new product line. And then you also bring up new ideas to fill in the gaps of those that you dropped. That would involve maintaining the inventory of the infrastructure of the production and all of the physical products. I don't know how to fund something like that in the beginning.
Right? Yeah,
like, become independently wealthy easily.
Exactly. working back on the chat here too, working backwards.
Okay, yeah, let's
you
check that out.
Do some actual plays of RPGs and upload those videos. Okay, so we can use this as an idea as an illustration of maybe what we're talking about here, because, and I forget, maybe last week, I was watching a video on YouTube. Somebody was talking about actual plays, and it's like how actual plays are not really a successful format unless they're heavily edited. And once again, so like Dimension 20, for example. So once again, now you're looking at the sets, the production design, and the editing and all that kind of stuff. But that, if somebody wants to put that type of thing together, maybe that's what the Geekverse is there for, to help facilitate that, right? And then you could have somebody say, I'm associated with the Geekverse, and it's Dimension 19 or whatever, actual plays, podcasts, and what have you, and they do their thing. And that's one of the projects that's running associated with the Geekverse, with its own people doing its own thing. And maybe there are other people who are doing their own things in the Geekverse who are also associated with that in some capacity, either as players or people who do video production or what have you. And like BGD said a little bit earlier, that's the advantage of a publishing network. Like he's saying, some independent creators can do everything themselves at a high level, but most can't. And even the ones who get big never do, right? Like Matt Pat, who recently retired from YouTube as the actual presenter. He wound up with 4 separate theory channels. To the point where he just couldn't do it. Like a long time ago, he couldn't do it himself. And to the point now that he was like, okay, I got to stop YouTubing, and I'm just going to step back and be the behind the scenes kind of coordinator and run the business, because he get to the point where it was too big for him.
Mm-hmm. So with the actual play, like when I was editing Dinner and a Board Game, because like Mike asks, is that different from Dinner and a Board Game? The first season of Dinner and a Board Game was edited. Now maybe it could be even better edited, but I mean that was an edited show. We didn't do that live, but that turned out to not be something that was really sustainable to produce. I mean, I've got the camera mounts in my kitchen for shooting the dinner scenes. I set the other bedroom up here as the dungeon that's the set, and the tables and all of that. But first of all, a studio for that actually needs to be in a real central location. I'm not in a real central location. You got to drive to me. I mean, it's only Birmingham anyway, but I mean, you got to drive south to get to me. So if you're going to do something that's a physical production like that, that's edited, where people are going to be together, it needs to be a site where it's easy to get to.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a lot of people to shoot. I mean, of course, all of your cast. We did it with, I think, 3 extra people. So there were 3 crew members here while we were shooting. So everybody who was on the show, but then also a director of photography, a camera, lighting, and sound assistant, and then 1 additional production manager, especially to help manage the kitchen and things like that. So there were 3 people who were here as well, in addition to the cast. And then it took a long time for me to edit those videos.
Mm-hmm.
It took a long time, because we did run multiple cameras in the gaming room, and I'm sure there's some way you could streamline that and get more efficient at it. But I had so many problems editing those. If I had the card pop up on screen and things like that, that took so much time. I'm not sure that's sustainable. It certainly wasn't the way we were doing it here.
Right. You'd have to have editing. I've done editing. Video editing is part of going to, animation college. It takes a ton of time. Editing is its own unique, special skill set, and a highly paid one for a reason. And going back to production, depending on the type of project you're making, people aren't locked up inside their houses and can sit there and watch a 3-hour, full unedited, complete live play or whatever, actual play. even the biggest one, Critical Role, has consistently and continually had viewer drop all the way from their first season to now.
And it's drastic. It is
it's pretty drastic. Yes, I mean they're the start of. Anyway, we might be getting into the weeds. The whole point is any project that you're going to do that's going to have any project is going to have a much higher behind the scenes opportunity cost, I guess you could call it, than is usually visible up front and is not known to anybody who hasn't done it before. And going back to the kind of concept you were talking about, Heath, and I think that I'm on the same page, is the strength of having something like Heath's Geekverse being a clearinghouse, quote unquote, is it has a bunch of people who've done that before that you can go to and say, oh, here's this project and I need to have these things done, and whether or not you're the one who's doing it for me, how's the best way to do it? That kind of a thing. Sounds like, right? Am I on the same wavelength?
You know, I'm going to go back and grab what Andrew said in just a moment, but also, you know, the software that runs the coffee shop, you know, that's used for office collaborations. And I thought about like we could use something like that for the Geekverse, like people who have like an office in that virtual environment, and it could be a place to work, and that way people would be there. Because like I eventually started going crazy just because I was sitting here alone in the house all the time. But there may be other people who are in that kind of situation where having a virtual office where you can meet people, walk around, you know, and have these casual conversations might be we could do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So
I can jump
Andrew,
in.
go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that in terms of collaborating, and it sounds like, you know, it's already happening. And then in terms of like being like, you know, a good printer, share a printer, like networking in that way. And then, but I think things like distribution, when you're at this small a scale, is almost always going to be handled by a creator in general. And that the hard part probably is getting a creative project rolling, how to get started is, I think, where a lot of you know, kind of first time creators are going to struggle.
Yeah, the biggest hurdle, right?
But just in general, whoever is participating should definitely have something to promote, something that they're working on, and it's like they're looking for help or it's already for sale. And then with the chicken and the egg thing, it's I think to launch the way you're hoping is you got to make a splash. You can think about what's the splash, what's the innovation, what's the thing that the audience is going to say, I got to check that out, and I should get that, I should buy that game or whatever it is. I think there should be some thought put into what is the kind of the spearhead there, that makes for like a big launch and can attract more audience beyond what you can see. And then it's like, okay, build a mailing list. Usually a successful crowdfunder will create the mailing list. So then it's like, what goes into that success? What is the market asking for right now that you or a collaborative is interested in creating? And that's always kind of hit or miss. Sometimes I think most people have unexpected success. They were doing a passion project of some variety, but it caught on for some reason. And I'm not certain that you can really try to predict analytically what would achieve that sort of viralness.
No, you never can.
It's not it's not mathematics.
It's not mathematics. It's one of those situations where, yeah, they have unexpected success, quote unquote, but they've been doing the same thing for years, right? And like the overnight success, quote unquote, always has somebody who's devoted years to it in the background before it became, quote, overnight success.
Yeah, it's like this one project they had one time got traction in a really rapid way. But
Right.
that doesn't account for the 20 they have that never got.
And going back to Shadow Dark, right? Sweeping the Ennies. Deserved success. She put years, technically decades into that behind the scenes. Like it was the culmination of everything she'd done up to that point, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, because they say that inspiration is a myth because it's nothing more than practice and time.
Well, yeah, or dedication, what have you. But I mean, inspiration has its place. Success is a different beast.
Andrew brings this up. This is actually something we thought about, going back to the dinner and a board game idea. Maybe you could do it like a live sporting event. You would need a director just to switch cameras live and have all the pre-production stuff ready to roll in live.
Yeah.
That was an early idea. Now, when we first did that first season, streaming wasn't nearly what it is now. So I don't think we had thought about streaming it live, but there is that software, because I had looked at some of the software to run multiple cameras at the same time and do some of that editing live. I forget what software package that we were looking at. I think it actually had some hardware components too, but I had used it at Longleaf Studios and seen what it was. So where at least if it's going to be edited and put out not live, but as a standalone show later, while you're shooting it live, you could at least be doing some of the editing right there. Yeah, a director would be making cuts between, I want this camera live right there, and then you could watch that back through and you'd have basically the first cut of the edit, and then you could edit it further there if you're going to put it out not live. But now you could probably also do something like that live, like they do with a sporting event, if you have somebody else there who's swapping the cameras. So that was an idea. You still have to get everybody together, though. So the virtual, doing that virtually as a live stream is easier. I can't see. I can't see. Well, I mean, we could shoot it. Like, just because you're using StreamYard and OBS or something like that, that doesn't mean that you have to put it out live. You could pre-record it and then edit it from there. You could edit that. But then you
just
got to have the editor.
Take your Cultist RPG and you have a successful web series. Having the ability to watch people playing it while you're doing the campaign probably would make a lot of sense promotionally wise. You get content out of it from a video perspective. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could get the cast members to just jump it, get a version of the Cultists onto the coffee shop and do it that way, if that's a way to do it. Or if there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Some way that you can visualize what the game is. I thought the way you set up Hero Quest was very innovative and would make for, it's a virtual tabletop. So people are interested in VTTs. Is there a way to make a VTT out of your occultist game? And then
I think there is. Yeah.
So if that's the case, then that would be, I think, maybe build that into your promotion, and then you can, while you're running the campaign, people have these videos of the TV series or the web series to watch, but also there's going to be an opportunity to watch them play live or watch members of the Geekverse play it live, and everyone can participate in that way. I think that showing and so in that vein, like showing people the game with people playing it while you're promoting it seems to be a good way of kind of, if not live play testing, I guess it would be kind of live play testing though. I mean, what else do you call it? The game's already finished, so if you're selling it, the bugs should have already been worked out, so to speak. But there can be some participation with the audience, some way for them to see what it is and to see that it's fun, and then they're going to want to do the same thing. And if there's a way to do it virtually, and maybe that's what the stumbling block is for a lot of games is, how do I play this with my local group, or how can I play this with anyone? Whereas if you can do it virtually, I think that was your idea behind the coffee shop. People could log in and then if you have enough people in the games in the queue, people can just decide what game they want to play and then start playing it. So maybe the infrastructure is almost there or is already there to do something like that.
It's close. That is the idea. And going forward, of course, I was thinking like for any type of IP, one of the things that I want to do Faded Edge next because I need the rule system. Although I was thinking last night that, well, gee, no, Dungeons and Dragons is still the elephant in the room. So, what should I just be making all of the stuff for Dungeons and Dragons?
Well, considering
Maybe.
it just had its 50th anniversary, I'm not surprised it's still going strong.
But yes, I want to make that so that we play through our virtual tabletop system, and they all need to do that. But the systematizing everything is key to this. Whichever of this is Rune Jammer, BGD is talking about. That's extremely successful and that works. So it can work. Yeah, that can absolutely work. I think the key to a lot of this is for whatever it is it something that is systematized and can be repeated without trying to build everything from the ground up every time? Whether that's a rule set or the process you're going through. I've been trying to do, I haven't found that system yet. Everything's been ad hoc, and trying to put together. So as soon as the system,
I think it's mostly ad hoc, honest to God. Like there are once people get there, you could trace it back to see how it started and everything makes sense. But like, you can't say, well, I'm going to start from here and then do this and this and this and follow. It's really, at least insofar as I understand it, it's not an easy thing to be able to systematize like that.
Well, that's what you're talking about is the role of a producer, right? That's why producers are a profession. Because that's what they do. It's like, hey, there's this project out here, and there's all these, let's take a film. There's the actors, there's the directors, there's all the crew. Then you have to do the cast, and you have to do craft services, and then you have to do the costuming and yada 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 yada, all the way down to the marketing avenues. And there's got to be somebody there who's like, okay, I can coordinate all this and put it together. They're the ones who are ad hocing it, so everybody else can just do what they do.
Yeah, but even that producer will have a system,
right?
Like when like you bring that person on, like I was talking about developing that for the cultists, even just from the perspective of just the shooting side of it. Like there's a system that gets that done.
Right.
We're ad hocing it for the season 1. Then we re-implemented, improved, but re-implemented and improved that system to do season 2, and we would do that, again. So, like, what's a sustainable system?
I must have misunderstood that. You meant systematized creation, not necessarily success. I took your question to mean, or rather, your statement to mean systematized success, and that's just like there are plenty of producers and actors and directors who all do their jobs extremely well in concert with one another that fail ultimately in the end product because the audience was there for it. So it's just, you can't systematize success, but I think I misunderstood what you were driving at.
Right. Yes. I was trying to systematize production.
Gotcha.
Because then you can, which I've been failing at, but then if it's systematized, you can do more. And by doing more, you're going to have a greater chance of having one of them be a success because you don't really know what people are going to like. But if you can't systematize your production, you're not going to be able to do the quantity I think that's necessary.
It's much more costly and much more prone to ultimate failure because one failure in a chain of disparate projects can be devastating or more devastating.
And that maybe and that might be one of the kind of buffers against that is having it more widely distributed as a web or a network. But having that universally accessible, quote unquote, not universally, but you know what I mean, within the Geekverse itself, to anybody who wants to produce something, having that kind of system in place, like Keith is talking about, allows more projects at a higher quality for less cost. Meaning that,
yes,
okay, not all of them are going to succeed, obviously, but the ones that don't are not an overall drain to the extent that they would have been if that was like all the eggs in one basket, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, well, no, it completely does. And that's what I had been trying to do And that was one of the things that I talked to David at Infinite Black about when we were working together, because we built that company basically entirely around Elder Dice. And this had to do with we had different risk tolerances and different understandings of risk as well. Like that company was built entirely around every 12 to 18 months or longer. I think came up later, but every 12 to 18 months, you try to do a giant Kickstarter. You know, you swing for the start, you swing for the fence every 18 months. And try to run a giant Kickstarter. And that's fine if you're doing it. I mean, as long as that's working, then that's fine, except for, well, what happens when you swing and miss? At some point there's going to be, okay, if your entire company is based on one thing that you can only do 18 months and you swing for the stars, as long as you're connecting, all right, that works. But if you don't and you miss, then okay, well then what do? Then you can be in collapse. And so I was trying to ramp up other projects. I was like, David, we need to have other things going on too that are operating in parallel to that, so that it's not crippling if all of a sudden one of those projects is missed for whatever reason. And he went on to do like after I left, his big project was 1-Up Dice. He wanted to do Super Mario Dice. And there were Zelda dice and things like that as well. And I know that took a long time for him to get up and running, and that ended up being taken down by Nintendo.
Oh, yep.
So,
he did eventually get them out though, and they're pretty great dice. But they did eventually. The story to get there is long,
right? So, but if something like that happens, man, it would have been nice to have. It would be nice to have something that's going on every 3 months, but in order to get something, man, that takes a lot more
and that's
power.
Success.
Especially if you're the only one doing the creation and you're the only one.
Especially if you're the only one, right?
Like I know you got a lot of plates in the air, and it's sometimes to talk to you, there is a large degree of disappointment that you communicate for just not being able to get it all done.
Yeah, I know. That's a large part of life in my life.
Yeah, and I find like I'm slowly. It's funny because I think about this on a daily basis because I'm slowly inching myself into the same situation. Like, oh my gosh, I have so much reading to do and so much this and that and writing and I have to get back to this person. I have to get back to that person, and it's at some point there will be a failure. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I have the luxury of having a day job, so I don't really have to put any eggs in this basket. I can just do it because I like it. But to people like, Brian and Infinite Black who need to swing for the fences every, 15, 18 months, it becomes probably much more stressful. And even if it's just to get something creative out there, that becomes stressful as well because you can only take failure for so long.
Well, with that example, sorry guys.
Okay. No, go ahead. I'll get to you, Mike.
Shadow Dark. That was that a 5e system?
No.
It's
it's 5e influenced. It's more of an OSR system.
But did it use the OGL though, or anything like that?
No, it doesn't. No, it didn't. It was going to until the OGL debacle, and then Kelsey disconnected from that.
I see. Okay, but
it's still spiritually 5e.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more.
Well,
it's a melding. It's spiritual. It's more spiritually related, I think, to the original versions like AD&D and BX and what have you. But it uses 5e mechanics.
Yeah, it's the way it's marketed is an old school RPG with modern design sensibilities.
Yeah.
Okay, so spiritually is not the right word. There are mechanics here, and spiritually it's going back earlier. But
Okay, so there's something derivative about it though. And then when we think about Elder Dice, that's based on Lovecraft. Which I guess was public domain, and then he wanted to branch out and do licensed dice as well, which is also derivative. So is it necessary for the market to see something that appears to be mainstream or just adjacent to mainstream in order to be palpable, in order to have that success, in order to be able to make your world, to have a platform that can sustain it, or or have some, do you need cash on the side? There's a main business, and then use that to fuel the creativity. So maybe some thought can also be put into like what type of what is it? What is it about those success stories? What makes them successes? Was it the fact that people associated it with something else, like 5e and the open game license was a great way to make a derivative product with varying degrees of success. Not everyone was successful, but there were some breakout hits, I think, through that period. So is it necessary to be attached to something like 5e or to a public domain property like Cthulhu? Or
it absolutely helps.
Yes,
it does help, but it also is very constraining in that regard. So then what I've seen success from is when professionals from those bigger companies go off and do their own thing. That they're able to take their fans with them. They built up fans by working for the publisher. They put in 20 years or whatever. And I think we've seen a lot of independent game companies, frankly, come out of 3E that way, where people were veterans and they were able to use the open game license or use the D20 system trademark license at the time to build up their companies. I know I tried to do that, but there were bigger fish in the sea, and they were successful, and they're still around 20 years later. So I think there is something to be said for that. That going too far afield, whatever the creative endeavor, there should be some connection back to what is the audience interested in. Not every project, unfortunately, will get launched on that basis, but it's probably a very important consideration if the goal is some degree of success. And collaboration is kind of like going to happen either way. So the question is how to make it like, kind of something that you can keep doing because that's what you want to do.
You asked me a question, Robert, that I didn't answer, but I think it's a good one that's relevant here, and then I'll go to Mike's comment, and then we'll probably wrap up here in a few minutes. But you asked me what I think made Infinite Black successful, and there were several things that came together to do that. First of all, yes, it was the original dice. I mean, all the dice, but originally when we came out of that, we were attached to. We said we're going to do Cthulhu. And David was already known in that community as a mythos, a cosmic horror artist. That was something that people already knew anyway. They can, and was also very visual. So all you need to know about whether or not you wanted to get those dice was a beautiful picture on Facebook. So that was almost entirely marketed through Facebook, and might have been entirely marketed through Facebook, but if not, nothing significant elsewhere. That turned out. So it was something, hey, and David was fantastic with taking all of the photography and making the product photography look absolutely fantastic. So that was something that people already knew. Dice are also something they already knew. And then it was something very visual that all you had to do was see a picture on Facebook. And that worked. And we did a lot with Facebook groups. That's when Facebook groups were also huge. We had a fantastic Facebook group for that, which those don't work as well now. So you can't say, Elder Dice built a Facebook group. I should do that. But on the other hand, there weren't that many people doing dice either. So that was a new idea about dice that was connected to an existing IP that was something highly visual on a platform that Facebook that was working at the time. So those things, I think, are major things that came together that made Infinite Black successful, specifically Elder Dice successful. So Mike asked, though, Heath, is the takeaway here for you to focus on a smaller number of things? I would love to focus on a smaller number of things. No, that's been the takeaway for a long time. Now that was because I was like, all right, I'm going to just throw myself into this. I'm going to do a whole bunch of different things here, and I'm going to see which one of them works. And then the idea was to cull what I was doing from there. Yes, that's always been the idea. It's like, okay, well, we were doing these things, but these haven't been as successful. That's kind of like what we were just talking about, Bacon, with, well, you don't really know which ones what to do, but if you have several different things out there, you can maybe find out. But I haven't been able to cull the projects yet, but I need to. I absolutely need to. Less, and
it's all a learning process. So, you're going to fail a bunch of times, and those failures are going to teach you lessons that you can roll forward into the next project. But man, failure hurts. right? And it's not even just a matter of ego, right? It's the time that you put in. Like there's actual, honest to God, real world, tangible investments that go into producing these things, and it can be demoralizing to get to where you want to be. Not to just kind of be negative and dump all over everything, but that's not to be negative. It's just to say that, like, you know, you'll hear a lot of people who are in film. They'll ask you ask them, how do you get into film? Their response is going to be, well, you just make films. And it's the same way for games, and it's the same way for books, and it's the same way for video games. It's literally just make it. Just go out there and make it. And that seems daunting and huge, and you know, you have no idea where to start or what to do, but you learn as you go. You just make the thing, right? You don't need to go to school for any of this stuff. You just need to, you know, in this day and age, dial up a video on YouTube. There are entire channels devoted toward what tools you can get a hold of to make a video game, or how to structure a particular type of story that you might want to tell, or how to create a tabletop role-playing game, or a board game, or, you know, like there's everything that you can possibly want to learn is out there. Just do it. And I know there's a lot more to just doing it than just sitting down to do something. Sometimes there's a lot of sunk costs. Sometimes there's a lot of time investment that you might not have an opportunity to put into it, but just do what you can, learn as you go. And, you know, that's really the best way to do it, because you can sit here and analyze a market or a method till you're blue in the face, and it might not turn out the way you expect it to.
All right. Well, I think this has been a great discussion. Thank you guys for coming on. We should.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for hosting.
More often.
I gotta have you on eventually.
Yeah. Well, I've got you on the list, so I'm gonna edit my videos. I'm gonna work on video as soon as I get off of here, and then get those out, and then I've got you on the email list, so I'm gonna reach out to other people, and we can do show exchanges. I mean, you too, Robert. I mean, Robert's got a channel. Robert's got a network too, I know. I want to reach out there too. So
Robert has a huge, impressive network that when I first discovered it was absolutely flabbergasted that he was in a position that he was in. It's something that I had watched for years, and then he just kind of shows up and goes, "Oh yeah, I'm involved in that at the top." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" He's got a very, very impressive network.
Wait, what is remind me, what's the name of your network, Robert?
Oh, it's not mine. But I started following a group called Comicscape back in 2019. But they'd gotten started in 2017 and 2018. But it very much follows that type of kind of cross-promotional model. There's, I think, a lot to be learned. And they answer the question in terms of why indie? Why is indie important? Why should you support indie? As kind of as an alternative to the mainstream, but also as a way of, you know, kind of helping creators either who were veterans or for new creators. Like it worked both ways. But it seemed that it did derive its initial success from industry veterans subscribing to that and getting involved, and that there was an overall critique of the mainstream. So there was a lot going on that made that successful. That may or may not be something that you know, that you would be interested in. Like, do you want to take on Hasbro the way, you know, some people are taking on Marvel or DC? That's like that's a whole, you know, kind of branch of kind of YouTubing and that sort of content. But there is an audience for that sort of thing. But on the other hand, it's just like, well, what about the projects? Are people interested in the projects? I think it's both. I think people are looking for alternatives, and there may be some dissatisfaction with the mainstream. We definitely saw that with the OGL in terms of the gaming sphere, and so there is in terms of a why indie in gaming. It's like, oh well, there's a kind of built-in reason there. Does that work as a content model? I'm not so certain, but maybe you see others who are successful at it, but it might not be appealing because it's like, no, I just want to focus on creatives and creating. And what can be, you know, successful in its own right. But there is in that example, there is a tangent to something that was mainstream or something that was going on with the mainstream, and here's the alternative. So I think one of the questions is you have to answer why indie or why this alternative, or why this third party game? Because otherwise people are just going to want to play what the mainstream is offering, whether it's D&D or something like that, that's on the shelves and is easily accessible. Everyone knows it. And so selling a new game is always going to be a challenge. So I think you've been very innovative, Eve, in terms of like, let's do a web series. Let's take elements of things that work, and then you can kind of, now you have a something that promotes the cultists in terms of the web series. And then when you launch the project, people can watch the videos and be like, this is awesome. Oh, I want to play this game. And I just think, just get the coffee shop a version of that, and then people can see it while you're funding it. And I think that would be probably help. Obviously there's no guarantees for success, but I'm probably rambling at this point. But yeah, there are networks that are successful that are worth studying. I know a bit about that, but again, the nexus is back to a mainstream kind of branch. Like if there was like a professional creator who was going to come on, and then you wanted to take them on, and then you guys were working together to try to build this new thing, it would probably bring a lot of fans in from that neck of the woods. Is one avenue. Other avenues are, try to just take on the machine, and it's like, oh, Hasbro sticks. And it's like, not everyone wants to do that though. And it's very time consuming. And it becomes very one-sided. And frankly, not everything that's out there is terrible. So it's like, you want to be honest with your audience as well. So there's, I think, certain ethical considerations as well, which is why it's better to do your own thing, which is why I love what CG was doing, because they're principally promoting what their alternatives are. And like what the mainstream does is kind of just in the background at this point. Nobody cares. They're like, oh, we like these new offerings. And so that can be done. I've seen it done before, but it kind of, you have to catch lightning in a bottle with something like that to see the success they were doing, which was millions of dollars when you took all of the creators together. But it can be done, and it requires promotion. It requires building that audience. Where are you going to get the audience from? It could come from a mailing list if you have a successful crowdfunder. It could come from a YouTube channel. Chances are it's going to come from some combination of those things. Like, where is the audience? Where do they successfully fund? Think about those things, because you can probably replicate it in some degree, but you're never going to catch that lightning in the bottle unless it's like something outstanding that the crowd was just like, this is amazing, and everyone, word of mouth really catches on. But it is interesting.
All right. Okay. Well, everybody, I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to go edit video, and then probably go write if I can, if I have any time. But I'm going to go edit video and try to get these videos out. That'll be the next step. So I'll post them in the Discord server if I get them out, but it might not be today. But all right. Thank you so much for being here, everybody, on the chat, in the chat, and then also chatting on the stream. So I will see everybody later. Go forth, be creative, be productive. We were just talking about that. So it's time to go make stuff. So talk to you later, everybody.